안녕하세요. Welcome to Cathlyn's Korean Food Challenge. Today's recipe is another one of my all-time favorites and specialty dish, Kori Jjim, which is the oxtail stew. Unfortunately, most people aren't really familiar with this recipe. If you were wondering about what it tastes like, I think braised kalbi short ribs, but with a slightly richer flavor. Oxtails come from a steer's tail, so the texture is a bit tougher compared to other cuts of beef because it's an area where the muscle is well exercised and they're marbled with fat, but it's very rich in iron. As with most tough cuts of beef, oxtails are best slow cooked for several hours. And they tend to be fatty, so I'd recommend that you first rinse and soak them in water for at least 30 minutes. You can prepare this dish in a regular pot, crock pot, or pressure cooker. But today, I'm going to show you how to cook the Kori Jjim using an appliance which you probably may not even have thought of, the rice cooker. Since today's recipe requires about an hour to cook and prepare from start to finish, I'd better get started on slicing and chopping up the vegetables. Here we have some cooked chestnuts, which I have marinated in honey for 2 days. Some dried dates. I've prepared some whole dried shiitake mushrooms, which I have pre-soaked in water for half hour to soften them. Beautiful yellow and red bell peppers. I have also a couple of fresh ginseng roots. Take a paring knife and gently scrape off the surface of the root like this. In Korean, it's called insam, literally meaning a human root because it is shaped like a human body. Next, I'm going to cut up the vegetables in small cubes, starting with the daikon radish, sweet potato, a carrot, half a brown onion, then the bell peppers. Set them aside and add them onto the braised kalbi at the very end. As for the green onion, cut them diagonally in half-inch slices. Here I have about 2 pounds of cut up oxtails that have been nicely trimmed. I've rinsed them several times and let them soak in cold water for about half hour to remove the excess blood. Let's start by boiling the oxtails in a stock pot. You need to fill it with enough water to cover the oxtails and boil in medium-high heat for about 45 minutes. Drain and place them in a bowl. I have pre-mixed a cup of kalbi sauce, which is basically soy sauce, sesame oil, minced garlic and ginger, cooking wine, brown sugar, and some fresh pear juice. Pour the sauce over the oxtail and mix well. Add the oxtails into the rice pot. Add a cup of water and some of the broth from earlier. Add the dried dates, shiitake mushrooms, onion, daikon radish, and ginseng root. Pour the rest of the kalbi sauce over the ingredients and let the oxtail stew cook in the rice cooker for an hour. When it's done, remove the oxtail and ingredients from the rice cooker and place them onto a nice plate or clay pot. My challenger today is Chef Tom McElhinney, who is an executive chef of Brandt Beef, a premium all-natural beef producer best known for their environmentally sustainable practices. He is actually visiting me from the East Coast and will be here shortly, so I'd better get ready before he gets here.
Hi, Cathlyn.
Hey, Chef.
How are you?
Good to
Nice
see
to see you,
Thanks
too.
for coming. Welcome.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, all the way from New York, right?
Absolutely. So tell me, what is a traditional Korean greeting?
A Korean greeting. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Oh, very good.
Thanks for having us.
Oh yeah, I am excited to have you here. So Chef, how important is, consuming all natural beef versus, I know a lot of the meats out there, they're
The
injected
commodity
with
stuff,
hormones.
yeah. Well, basically you are what you eat. And when you put a hormone, a growth hormone, or an antibiotic into an animal, unfortunately, that never leaves the animal, even through the cooking process. So once it's in there, it's there. So if you're eating beef that's been given a growth hormone, which is basically a steroid, you eat that meat, and whatever that animal ingested, excuse me, you're ingesting as well.
Oh wow, so yeah, I guess it's very important. I'm really careful about what I eat too, so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I know it's a little pricier.
It is, but we do a couple things at Brandt Beef that other commodity style beef companies don't do. Again, we don't use antibiotics or growth hormones, so without using a growth hormone, it takes longer for that animal to reach a market weight or a harvest weight, slaughter weight, if you will.
Oh, great.
So that adds up to more corn in the feed, so it's more expensive.
Yeah, sure.
So we have to obviously pass that cost along to. But you know, honestly, because of the way we raise the animals without the growth hormones, a lot of these sustainable cuts, the non-traditional cuts, eat a lot more tender than an animal that's been given a growth hormone because, again, a growth hormone being a steroid builds muscle mass.
Oh, wow. So let me ask you this question. Like, what is the most expensive part of the,
Of the animal?
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of ironic. The most expensive part of the steer is the beef tenderloin, and to me, it's the piece of meat with the least amount of flavor. It's the most tender, which is why I think it's the most popular. However, it is really, I think, the most bland piece of meat on the animal. Traditionally, or typically, the most flavorful cuts are the ones that are muscles because they're working. You get a lot more of the flavor in those cuts.
So, Chef, since you're the beef expert, I have put together a little test for you.
Okay.
I prepared 4 different cuts of meat here. So now I'm going to cook it. You see, it grills really fast. And there are different cuts here, so maybe you can really affirm what they are by tasting them, right?
All right.
I didn't season it or anything because that takes away the flavor. You can't really tell.
Okay.
Can you tell?
Very, very lean. That's tenderloin.
There you
Very,
go.
very lean, yeah.
I should have blindfolded you first, huh?
This has a little more fat in the muscles, so. Brisket.
Brisket, yay!
A lot of good beefy flavor in there.
Yes. There you go.
Again, a lot of flavor, marbling. Gonna say that's the ribeye.
The ribeye, yay! 3 out of 4.
Short rib.
One of my
the best.
favorites, actually.
That's,
Yes,
that's the
he
best
passed.
flavor. Nice and tender, delicious,
Good,
delicious.
very good. Yeah, he
Very nice.
passed. Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Being as you cooked 4 cuts for me, I'm gonna cook 3 cuts
Okay.
for you. I'm gonna show you
plenty.
what we do best. We're gonna cook a nice California steak, 3 actually. Very simply, I'm gonna show you how we like to
Sure.
prepare the perfect
Okay.
steak. To start the thicker steaks a little bit earlier because they do take a little bit longer to cook, but typically what I do is preheat the grill, get it nice and hot,
You have something up there already.
make sure it's nice and clean. You don't want any of the meat to stick.
All right.
What we have already cooking on top is a nice rib chop.
Ooh, looks good.
So that's gonna take a little bit longer probably.
How long does it usually take to grill those rib chops?
The rib chops take between 12 and 14 minutes. It really depends on how well you want them cooked. What I like to do, especially with these are prime grade beef, I like to start them off, like I said, on a very hot grill. Get a nice sear on the outside. They've already been seasoned with just salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Get a nice mark on both sides, and then move it to the other side of the grill that's maybe more of a medium high heat.
okay.
That way you're not getting too much of a char on the outside and you're allowing that steak to cook nice and
Right.
easy. And even more importantly, at the very end, you should have let the steak rest for about half as long as the total cooking time. So if you cook it slower, it's going to have to rest less time when you're finished. So that's our New York sirloin steak.
Very good.
This is our bone-in rib chop.
All right.
Always clean the grill when you're finished cooking. Don't leave,
That's
it for,
important,
don't leave
right?
it for the next guy.
Yeah.
Are you ready to taste?
Oh yes, I
Okay.
am dying to taste it.
Okay, we're going to start with the flat iron steak.
Wow.
A flat iron, again, being a muscle, it's important that when you carve it, that you carve against the grain, not with the grain.
Against the grain.
Against the grain so it stays nice and tender.
Very
So,
good. Extremely tender. Very, very flavorful.
It's kind of more of a beefy flavor.
Yeah, beefy flavor. I love that.
And again, because that's the flat iron muscle is in the front quarter, it does a lot of work as the animal's eating, bending up and down. So that's where you're going to get more of that beefy type of flavor.
Yeah.
Less tender than some of the next cuts we're going to
I'm
do.
okay with that.
So now we're cutting up the New York strip. This part of the animal is actually from the loin, the back actually. Not as much of a muscle, so to speak, so you're going to get more juiciness out of it. The muscle's going to have more marbling, which is that intramuscular, the white specks that you see. That comes from the feed. That's basically based on corn feeding. Something that's you won't find in grass-fed beef, only in corn-fed beef.
Actually, it has a little less, it's not as rich in flavor as the previous one, but it's a little more tender.
Yeah, and again, not a muscle, so that's
Yeah,
what you'll see.
exactly.
And then the last is one of my favorites by far. That's this is our rib chop.
Oh yes, ribs. Yep, the texture, the flavor, the consistency, and actually the juices. I know it's the juices all flown out, but when it's contained on a plate, oh yes, you're gonna have together with it.
Yeah, the ribeye really bursts with that juiciness.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's by the prime rib using that nice tender piece.
Yep. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We learned a lot about the techniques of how to grill a perfect, juicy, moist, super tender, flavorful steak. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And now, so are you ready for my Korean food challenge?
Absolutely.
So chef, welcome to my kitchen. I know you're looking at the basket. This is my magic 5-ingredient basket, which holds one or more of the 5 Korean ingredients that I always use for my cooking.
Okay.
But before you look into them, I have to blindfold you and have you do the blind tasting.
Okay.
Okay. Here you go. Is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Good, you did it all.
Wow.
What do you think?
Delicious. Very, very good.
Glad
A little
you like
sweet.
it. Yeah, sweet.
Braised, obviously. It's beef.
Beef.
Hopefully it's Brandt beef.
Do you know can you guess what part of beef it is?
It's something that's been cooked on the bone, braised for a long time. From the consistency of the meat, it's tender like you would braise a short rib, but it's not as as dense. I think this is a little more stringy, so I'm going to think that oxtail.
Oxtail! Oh wow! You guessed the secret ingredient for today. Yes.
One of my favorites, actually.
Oh, it is. Oh, that's very good. You can open the basket now.
All right. Oxtails.
Okay.
Some ginger. Some kind of root vegetable that's a little mysterious to me.
It's called a ginseng.
Ginseng. Wow. Okay. Asian pear, that's where that sweetness came from. I noticed before. Looks like some garlic
minced garlic.
Minced garlic. Some radish.
Yes, steak and radish.
And some kind of, I don't know, that's maybe sugar? Some kind
Brown
of seasoning.
sugar.
Brown sugar, okay. And mystery ingredient.
Dried dates.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, jujube, they call it.
Okay, yeah. Again, to get some more of the sweetness to the broth.
Yes.
Okay. What I'm going to do to start with, being as these oxtails will take a while to cook, I'm going to go ahead and season them with some salt and pepper, sear them off, and then get them going in a little bit of braising liquid that I'm going to create with some of these other ingredients here. The ginger, maybe some of the ginseng root, and the dried dates. I'm going to take these off now that they're nice and brown, get them in the pan that I'm going to braise them in, and then I'm going to continue by browning off some of my mirepoix and create that broth that's going to braise these oxtails. I'm going to grate some ginger for this broth. caramelize these onions to start the braising liquid to give a little sweetness to that broth that we're using. Just gonna crack it open so some of that flavor. So I'm just doing a fine julienne of the trio of peppers, the radish, and some of the Asian pear. Put a couple of the shiitake mushrooms in there, but just more for flavor. I don't think we're going to actually incorporate them into the dish, just to add some body to the sauce. A little bit of the grated ginger. A little bit of garlic. A little bit more. Pan nice and hot for the vegetable garnish. In the meantime, we'll take out the braised oxtails. A little soy. Sesame oil. Okay, we're going to plate up the tricolor pepper salad on top of the braised oxtails.
That looks great.
So we have some nice, the nice braised tender meat, and then some nice crispy vegetables.
Oh, very good.
Sauteed with some sesame oil, a little bit of soy sauce reduction.
Got all the important
All the ingredients are in there. A little bit of Asian pear for
very good.
some texture, and then some
Garnish. Oh, wow.
scallions.
Very good. Smells really good.
There you go.
Wow. Here's the Kori Jjim, we call it. Kori Jjim. That's the
Kori Jjim.
oxtail stew.
Okay.
Very good. And now I gotta try it. But before that, I'll bring out my food and we can compare.
Perfect.
So, Chef, here's my version of the oxtail stew and soup.
Looks delicious.
Thank you. I usually use the pot to braise it too, but then this time I used the rice cooker.
Oh, so low and slow cooking.
Yeah, and then it simmered for a couple hours,
Okay.
so I am sure it's super tender. Hey, so you want to taste the food?
I do, but first I have a question for you. What is that that earthy kind of pickly aroma that I've been smelling?
I'm sorry. Yes, it's kimchi. Oh, I forgot.
Okay.
Yes, can you grab it?
Sure, there you go.
We have over 200 kinds of kimchi,
Wow.
believe it or not. And it's all pickled, fermented vegetables, different kinds of vegetables. And sometimes it's less spicier than the other. And the one that I wanted you to try today, it's called 총각 kimchi, which is literally means bachelor kimchi. I don't want to explain in detail, but you just look at it and I think you'll get an idea.
Okay.
Wanna try the soup first?
Absolutely.
Yeah, here you go. See, it's been simmering in the pot for a while, but I didn't put anything except the dates, and ginseng also goes in there.
Okay.
So you can actually taste a little hint of it, but you can put some salt and pepper. That's what I'd like to suggest. Otherwise, there will be no
enough. Okay.
flavor.
Try a little bit.
A little salt. There you go. In Korean soups, it's very brothy, like not creamy at all.
Very light, but very flavorful, yeah.
Isn't it flavorful?
Delicious.
Right.
Yeah.
And like I said, we serve with rice or noodles and with kimchi.
Very nice.
And I would like you to try the kimchi along with the food.
Okay.
And while you do that, why don't we switch?
Switch?
Yes.
Okay.
There you go. I'll try yours, you try mine. Very similar to my version. What I did is I put the sauce. It's called a kalbi sauce.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've simmered it, in the rice cooker for a couple hours, so it all got infused, into the meats. Whereas this you drizzle over, I think the juices from the sautéed vegetables. Yeah, so it's very light, but it's good. That way you can tell and taste the actual oxtail meat. Very good and very tender. Yeah, the kimchi will be a challenge. Have you ever tried it?
I've had kimchi before.
Oh, you did?
It was usually shredded though, more like shredded cabbage.
Really? Shredded. We don't really shred it. I guess they did it for the American version. What do you think? It's actually only about 5 days old.
It's delicious. I like it. I really do. It's delicious. It's a nice compliment to the braised
That's
too.
good. Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you once again, Chef Tom.
Thank you, Cathlyn.
All right, and remember, life's delicious, so taste it. 건배. 감사합니다. Cheers. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join me on my next Korean food challenge.